If you've ever felt totally overwhelmed trying to book brides, whether it's through missed messages, forgetting follow-ups, chasing payments, just know that you are not the only one that's going through this. I used to feel the exact same way and was very, very scatterbrained until I came up with an actual booking system for myself. This not only makes everything more streamlined for you, but it also makes for a more positive experience for your bride. Hey guys, welcome to day 8 of the 25 Days of Kitmas. I want to point out something that most every artist overlooks, and this is the fact that your booking process starts way before people actually inquire with you. I covered this mostly in my How to Get Your First 5 Clients as a Makeup Artist, so if you guys have not checked out that video, I have a lot of helpful tips in terms of how to get clients. But just continuing off that video, brides are initially window shopping. They are doing this months in advance. They're looking at your Instagram, they're looking at your website, they're looking at your portfolio and your overall vibe, and deciding if you're going to be the right fit for them. So in order to create a positive first impression, we want to make sure that not only is our overall social media presence cohesive, but we also want to make sure that we are organized on the back end too. I do want to mention that I don't have any sort of CRM, which is a client relations manager. This is referring to websites like Honeybook or Dubsado, but if you are working at full capacity, or if you want to set yourself up for having that full volume of clients, then a booking system might be something that you want to do. It also might benefit those people that want to have a little bit more automation happening behind their business too. I, however, do like still having the personal connection, so half of my system is automated and half of my system is not. It also kind of gives you an insight into what programs I use during the process as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and take you onto my laptop because I will show you exactly how I do my booking process. This is initially where everything begins. As I was speaking about in my first 5 clients video, having a booking link is really essential. This can either go to a contact page or it can go to a full-blown website. Now, I do really highly recommend that people do spend the effort in creating a website only because it looks more professional and you can simply put more information inside of the website too. It's just juliemarieartistry.com. You can definitely feel free to seek inspiration from my website, although it is technically considered copyright infringement if you do copy it directly. So just make sure that you're not like word for word, like copying and pasting things. Pretty much just going to take you through like my initial steps on what people would do typically if they land on this page. So say that they found this website through my Instagram page because I have a link there for it. They're going to land on your homepage. Your homepage is going to be their initial first impression. So you want to make sure that it is very clean, very organized, and very easy to navigate through. I automatically have a very nice full HD photo going on and say Julie Marie Artistry, luxury bridal makeup artist for the modern bride. And then right here, I have this big button that says bridal packages and pricing. My number one service is attracting bridal clients, and that is ultimately what I have this website set up like, with like a little bit of the spa stuff in there too. I have a big header here that said weddings. Your elevated bridal experience starts here. And then right here, I automatically have scroll down for pricing and service inclusions. Now, you would think naturally that people would scroll down, and I do have some people that still can't seem to find this. I am a person that has my entire pricing structure, an FAQ section, and also my availability as well on my website. Again, you're pretty much trying to take the guesswork out of any questions that people might possibly have. And if there's some sort of barrier to entry or they have a question that they might possibly have to reach out to you about, they may just not do it. I will tell you right now that I was definitely one of those people at one point in time when I first got started that never put my availability, never put my pricing on my website, which in my head at the time, I thought, okay, well, maybe if I don't put my pricing and also my availability on there, then they'll have to reach out to me to contact me for those things. And at that point in time, I'll hook them. Wrong. I definitely figured out that was not the correct way to go about things. People were just simply not reaching out. Or if I got people that reached out, they weren't in line with my prices, or I was already booked for their date, and I either had to send them a rejection notice or I just got ghosted. And it was leading to a lot of miscommunication, and we were doing a lot of back and forth. It was just wasting both of our times. I have a lot higher booking rate and I get a lot less people ghosting. In fact, I get a lot of people nowadays that are very much respectful of my time. This is where I put my investment guide, which is my pricing and service guide. You don't have to get as fancy as me. Usually beginner artists are obviously like base level, so you can technically at this point in time in this section just lay out all of your prices, like copy and paste it from a Word document or just type it in manually if you want to. But I love being a little bit fancier and doing a separate PDF guide for people to be able to reference easily. And also, if it's a PDF, they can download it to a computer. So that way, if they're going in between a couple of different artists, then mine's already there. And then also it does have an FAQ section attached to it because I know not everybody's gonna come across the FAQ section on this website. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on this investment guide. So when you click on the button, it's going to automatically redirect to the PDF guide. And at this point in time, you can just click on this download button and it'll save it to whatever computer or device that you're on. Next page says, congrats, you're engaged. And then I just kind of go on and say a little cute saying about how I'm really happy about them being engaged and this is some information that I wanted them to have. Next, I'm going on to my bridal packages, and then this is where people may or may not have things to say about my bridal pricing, but in my area though, this is what I'm charging for now. I have 3 different packages that people can choose from. Classic Bride is $350, then we got the Signature Bride package, which is $400, and then the Refined Bride, and then travel separate, it's $1 per mile round trip. And so then this is the bridal party pricing. I have everybody at $100 each, but I probably might up it to $125. This is also something that people will get when they book with me too. It's called the Bridal Guide. It's basically a very extensive 30-page document that I have for people. That's a very inclusive wedding planning guide. So it includes morning coordination tips, skincare, prep advice because I am an esthetician. There's also a whole entire bridal preview prep guide. So once their bridal preview rolls around, then that's a reference guide for them to have for it. There's also vendor referrals inside of there and just different things about like timeline tips. And then this is where the bridal FAQ section comes in. So this kind of more so just breaks down which package is right for them in case they're very confused, because that would probably be the first question that I would have as a bride. Again, it's all about putting yourself in their shoes. And then do the skincare upgrades really make a difference in how makeup looks and lasts? And there's just like all the other questions. So like I'm not going to read everything, but it's pretty much answers again the most frequently asked questions that a person might have. And then at the very end, it says what steps next. So inquiry. So this says fill out the contact form on my website. And I did make this a clickable link. So this will go directly to my contact page on my website. And then the first touch, so initial connection to see if we're a good fit. So we'll go over wedding details. And then I said that I'm more than happy to jump on a call, audio or video if preferred. After this, in order to secure your date, I just require a signed contract and a $200 retainer. What I'm gonna do now is go onto the contact page. Again, you can either access this through the investment guide here, or you can also access it through the tab right here as well. But let me just go through here just so you guys can see. Went right to my contact page. I truly think that you should ask as many questions as possible on this contact form and make them a requirement to fill out. If you don't make them a requirement, people will simply not fill them out. I not only do the first name, last name, but I also do an email. I do the event date, and then I just said I am. So there's this drop down bar right here that says bride, bridal party, or family member, because sometimes moms or maid of honors or something reach out for the brides instead. And so I kind of want to know who I'm talking to. And then the other is for like other special event that's non-weddings. I usually ask which packages they're interested in just so I can accurately quote them. Again, I'm trying to get everything out in like one singular email, so we're not going back and forth and they have all the information up front. Getting ready location, either put in an address or they can give me like the name of the venue that they're at. And then this is where the number of services is. I definitely think you should note on there if you have like a max of services. So I need to change this actually, but I do need the head count solidified upon booking. Now this is where all the other details get really significant here. And you might not think this is essential to have because a lot of makeup artists wait till the very end or at the preview date to ask this information, but it might be too late at that point in time. So here's my thing. Number 1 is ready by time. I always ask them what time they need to be ready by. Usually this is around their photographer's arrival time. So if their photographer is arriving at like 11 o'clock, say, they usually have within like a half hour to an hour window to when they actually have to get ready. So that's why I just make it like around whenever their photographer is arriving. Usually they can either ask their photographer this or their photographer has kind of gave them like a base level timeline at that point. This allows me to know based on the number of services if I need a secondary artist or if I can do this alone. I really heavily need this information before we book because if I need to reach out to somebody, I need to do it now. And I also need that other artist to know how many services they're doing too. So that's why this all is very pertinent information to have. The other thing I need to know is if their venue has a restriction on arrival time. Sometimes, even if maybe they say only have like 5 people, I could potentially do that alone. But if their ready by time only gives us like a 2-hour window, I'm gonna have to hire somebody else. So that's why having this ready by time is really essential too. Second to last question says, how did you hear about me? And I just like to simply know how they heard about me. I wanna know which website they came off of or what kind of marketing has worked best for me. And 9 times out of 10, it's Instagram, but I also have had a lot of referrals in the past. And then I also have had a lot of answers that say Google too. So Google business pages are apparently working for me too. The last question, this is something that's very optional. I didn't make this a requirement. As you can see, some people choose to say something to me and some people don't. Okay, I went ahead and just like filled this out randomly because I want to show you guys very, very important information to have. And this is your confirmation message or your confirmation screen. I made this into a separate PDF that pulls up once they confirm. This is what pops up afterwards. It not only gives them confirmation that their inquiry has been received, but it also tells them when to expect a response from me. Thank you for your consideration for my services. Please allow 24 to 48 hours for a response. And this allows me to have at least that 48-hour window for them to expect a response. Now, I want to say right now that I usually make this longer than it needs to be. Because if you do this within a shorter period of time, then they're really going to know that you're on top of things. Also makes them happier when they receive a response faster. And then I just said that no, weekends are my work days, so I may be a little bit slower to respond then. So then of course, going on to my email here is my like dummy response that I have for my form submission. So this is what I see on my end whenever people submit things to me. So it says came from Squarespace, and then all of their inquiry is going to be right here. I'll kind of give you an example. I'm going to censor out all the private information on here, like her name and like wedding date and everything. But this is pretty much how I respond to people, and your response could be within like a 12 to 24-hour period. But just know that anymore, people kind of expect a very instant response because we do live in an instant gratification society. The quicker you're on top of it, the more likely you are to book that person's wedding. Whenever I've waited a couple of days and then responded, I usually have lost the booking. So yeah, it's all about timeliness in this industry. It's all about you wanting it bad enough. And if you do, make sure you're responding adequately. And this is also something that I really want to point out is that please do not just have like ChatGPT write responses for you. Be an actual human being and like write out the responses. Now, I do want to admit, I do copy and paste over the responses from this, but I have actually sat and wrote this myself at one point in time. I do kind of plug and play information and change out stuff just depending on who I'm talking to, but I do also make sure every single time to include something personal about their wedding venue or their wedding. So yeah, I have been to this specific venue that they're looking at before, so I said it's a beautiful venue, great choice within my travel radius, and then I just said I love how private the venue's location is as well as their bridal suite to get ready. And then I usually give them the travel fee at that point in time. I briefly wanted to talk to them about timing because I would need an additional artist. But if the timing's a little bit tighter, then I would need two. It kind of just depends on what they're having me do. At the very end, I just said I went ahead and attached the investment guide. I tell them what all it includes. And then this is when I give them a cost breakdown of the services. So they chose the classic bride package. Then I have the bridesmaids and then the additional artist. I technically put two in there, but I said like if there's only going to be one artist, obviously it would be $150 less. And then I gave them the travel fee and the overall total. So that way there's literally nothing that they have questions about. Like everything is literally in this one email. And then I attached the investment guide that I showed you guys from my website and put it here. I also do want to mention too, your website or your booking link should be the only way that you're taking inquiries. I promise you that if you are taking inquiries through DMs on Instagram, there is so much chaos that can erupt from that. Number one, you can simply not get it. There is a thing called message requests, which if you guys don't mutually follow each other, you wouldn't be following them because they're a stranger to you. It ends up in this folder called message request. Instagram doesn't notify you about message requests, and so you have to manually check that folder every single day to see if there's inquiries. Like you just don't get any notifications. Number two is that there's no way to close back up those messages. So if you accidentally open somebody's inquiry and you don't really mean to, or you don't have time to respond to it right away, you will most likely probably forget that that inquiry existed, which means that you essentially just kind of left them unread. And then number three, it just makes for a very chaotic situation because if you take some inquiries via email, you take some inquiries via like text per se, and then some via DM on Instagram. Now you have three different outlets that you're checking every single day for inquiries, when really everything should just funnel into one platform. If I have somebody who inquires with me through DM, I'm linking the investment guide to them. I'm not even redirecting them to my website anymore. I'm just simply copy and pasting the URL, since it's a online document, to my investment guide, because basically my investment guide, that 8 pages, kind of summarizes the entirety of what my website is. And I'll also link the site for my contact page as well. Of course, I'll do this after I check to see if I'm available for their date. If I am available for their date, then I'll send them the information. And that pretty much cuts out like all of the middle steps and then make sure they have all the information that they need to accurately make a sound decision. But after we do set everything up and they're like, hey, love to book with you, this is when I go into having the contract signed and also a retainer. We're getting onto the actual site where I go ahead and book my brides. This is through Square. Now, this is not to be confused with Squarespace. Square is going to be your POS or your point of sale website, and then Squarespace is the website builder. And this I also use for my spa bookings too, because you can keep track of like inventory and your services and everything through here. Or if you do collect credit card payments on site, then this is also something that you would have to have too. It's completely free to have. And then upon you starting an account with them, they do mail you a free credit card reader. It's also a very universally recognized system as well. There's a lot of retailers that use it. A lot of clients automatically have trust in me because they know that I'm using a legit website. So let's go ahead and just say that I want to send an invoice and a contract. I'm going to go on to invoices and I'm going to say create invoice. Now, if you have Square Plus, you can batch invoices if you want to. I usually only do the single batch content. Since Square is a POS system, it will keep track of all your sales, and then it'll give you some sort of tax form at the end of the year that totals up all of your income. This is pretty much what the invoice system looks like. It allows you to customize literally everything. Okay, I'm just gonna click a random person. It automatically defaults to bridal makeup invoice because that's how I have it defaulted. Service date, so say they're getting married like April 4th of next year. And then invoice ID, I usually change it to whatever their wedding date is. That way I can't repeat invoices because I only take one wedding per day, so I won't ever have the same invoice ID. Then I just say, please pay this invoice, and then I'm gonna say, and sign the attached contract at your earliest convenience. This will officially secure your wedding date with me. And then this is where you can add items. I have all of these items automatically listed inside of my services list, but you can type anything in manually if you want to. So let's say I have the classic bride, that's $350. Let's say then we have like 4 additional people. Then we need an assistant on here. So assistant fee, that would be $150. And then let's say the travel is like $20. So then right here is really cool because it gives you a breakdown of the total. But then what I usually do is I add payment schedules. Now, this is something that I love the fact that Square can do. Because of the fact that I take a retainer, this is where this is going to be. I take a dollar amount. Otherwise, if you take like a 30% retainer, you can say 30% on here. But since mine's a dollar figure, I'm going to do 200. So then usually I will give them like a couple of days to pay this. It's not like I expect it done like immediately, but you can have it due upon receipt. So we're going to change this to their wedding date of April 4th. So then I'll save it here. And then now what it's going to do is say deposit within 2 days, so 12/3/2025, because that's like when I'm filming this. This is how far in advance I film things. So the $200 is due up front, and then the remaining total is $324. This is where we're going to add a contract. Right here, we say add Square contract, new contract, and then I actually already have my bridal makeup contract on here, and I'll show you this later when I get onto my contracts page. But since I don't actually want it to send out, I'm not gonna like do anything with this, but this is where the signatures thing is. So then this is where you as a business owner would type in your name. So I'm gonna say Julie Ruby there. And then if you have Invoices Plus, then you can also click this little toggle switch here and then require unsigned contracts to be signed before the payment. So that's something that's very handy to have too. I did do that at one point in time, but I really haven't had an issue with people not doing both. Again, everything is completely free. Like, I kid you not, like everything is free. You don't have to pay for it. It's not going to charge you anything unless you do like the Invoices Plus, which just does take a transaction fee from you every single time whenever they deposit things over as like an ACH payment into your bank account. But besides that, everything's free. This is when you can schedule this, so you can send it immediately, or maybe say you didn't want to send it until like Monday the 8th. Then I could also have it sent then automatically. So then what happens is that you can also say how you want to accept the payments from them. So of course, credit or debit card, always a thing. So as you can see, it'll tell you how much they're taking per transaction. So it's taking 3.3% plus 30 cents per transaction. If you want to do it with an ACH bank transfer, that's also an option too. I also turn on Cash App because a lot of people do just have Cash App anyways. And I think if you have Square Plus, this is when Afterpay can be a thing too. But to be completely honest, 6% is like a really high fee for me to pay, and I don't want people to not pay me the full balance right up front, so I don't think I'd ever have Afterpay checked anyways. So then going down here, there also is a way to add like a card so it stays like on their customer file, so then it just automatically charges them every time. But I do like to have clients themselves have control over this so they don't think I'm just automatically taking money from them. So I won't have the system memorize their card or anything. And then this is the other thing that's cool too, is that it automatically can ask for tips if you want it to. Typically, if I have another artist involved, I'll turn the tipping off. But if I'm the only one that is doing the service, then I'll turn the tip button on. Some people do it through here, some people don't. It kind of just depends. And then share via email. You can share this to just the person receiving it, or you can also add an additional recipient. There's one circumstance that I can think of where a mom had actually asked me to send them the contract too, just so they could look over everything. And so you can CC them like on the email. These are the reminders. That's also one of the reasons why I use Square too, is because it does automatically have this reminder system, so you don't have to do it. This is the one instance where I do think automation is a really good thing and you don't need human interaction for. So after this, you would either send it or schedule it depending on if you want it sent right away, or if you of course like want to schedule it like 3 days from now, then you can. Let me go ahead and just exit out of this really quickly because I do not want to send this. If I were to send a contract, let me just say new contract, and then I'm going to do bridal contract and create. So this is what you would see when you're on your contract page. So I have everything auto-filled right now as like a standard, and then I'll usually fill in the information, and this will show up on your actual contract. So I say this legally binding agreement is for professional wedding makeup services to be performed on. So in this case, let's say April 4th, like we did on the mock invoice that we did. And then I'm going to say add payment information. I forget what the total amount was. Was it like $520 or something like that? So then description is wedding makeup services, wedding date. And so then we'll have to go and select April 4th again. And then here is where you can do the initial deposit. And this is the reason why I also have my head count due by the time the contract is signed, because I actually add in like all the payment information on there. So they for sure know that it's legally binding and that they're on the hook for this amount of money. If for some reason there was like a person that dropped out last minute or something, I would have to have them re-sign the contract and redo the balance all over again. I had it due like what, a couple of days from now. So then the balance would be due on April 4th because I usually have it due the week of the wedding. So there, it's going to break that down for me again. And then this is where you can attach an invoice or an estimate. So say like you want to attach an invoice, then if we ended up saving that mock invoice, you would just be able to attach it right here. So you just hit next. This is where all my terms and conditions are, and then you would just say next. But since we're not going to do that, then I'm just going to exit out. That's pretty much how that Square system works, kind of in a nutshell. So the really great thing though about, of course, that entire booking process is that number one, after they sign the contract and also pay the retainer, they will get an email confirmation that both have been submitted. And with the invoice payment specifically, they will also get a downloadable PDF document so they can feel free to print it out and have it for their records. That way, everything just emails them receipts, and I don't have to necessarily confirm that I got them right away. It will just automatically do that for them. So again, that's another automation that's really nice to have. I also want to mention that whenever I do get back to replying to them after they submit the contract and also submit the invoice payment, I do respond back to them with an actual formal email and say, hey, thanks for booking with me. I really appreciate it. I also tell them too that I did attach the bridal guide PDF, which I told you about, that includes every single thing that they need to know, including tips for the bridal preview eventually when I meet them. And at that point in time, if I need a secondary artist, I'll tell them that I'm looking for one, and I'll respond back whenever I have that person secured. But until then, if they have any questions for me, feel free to text, email. You can have the reminder set up to whatever increments that you want to. They're initially sent a reminder for the invoice when I send out the invoice. Then, of course, if they haven't paid it within maybe a day or two or something, then it sends out another reminder. But if they pay the retainer right away within the next couple of days, then that'll stop reminding them until it gets closer to the actual due date. Now, as you can see by what I just did, I do require their full payment for the entire invoice the week of the wedding. And this is only to avoid me taking individual payments on the day of. A lot of brides will ask me if I take separate payments or if bridesmaids can pay me ahead of time, and I don't. I take things in one lump sum just to make it very easy. So if they have people that want to submit individual payments, then the brides would have to collect all of those payments themselves and then have one card be charged for the invoice payment. This is only to avoid headaches on the actual day of. Every single thing that I've done and every single policy that I have, I promise, is coming from a place of experience. I've had people forget credit cards. I've had people leave the building and then me having to track them down. And also on top of that, it just takes a lot of extra time to collect individual payments from everybody. It at least adds on 5 minutes for each person and just wasting a ton of time. So I just prefer everything in one lump sum. The only thing that I do tell people that I will take on site is gratuity if they want to, and that can only be taken in the form of cash or Venmo. Typically, I do like it to be in cash because they can just hand it over to me and I don't have to physically pull out anything or do any transactions with them. So in the future, I probably will just say cash only. The week of their wedding though, exactly 7 days before their wedding date, the invoicing system will send them a reminder that their invoice is in fact due. And then of course, if it doesn't get paid in a couple of days, the invoicing system will automatically send them a reminder. And then it'll also send out a reminder the day before the wedding if it does come to that. So yeah, that is about it for this video. I know I went a little bit farther, but I figured that you guys kind of wanted to know how my systems work and what policies that I have in place for things. So if you guys do have any questions, definitely leave those down below. Don't forget to like the video if you did find it helpful and are loving the Kitmas video so far. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you guys have not already. And as always, I hope you guys are having an absolutely fantastic day, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. All right, bye.